Hello, and welcome to the Mission Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. I'm an attorney and certified financial planner who created a successful financial planning firm serving LGBTQ entrepreneurs. Now, I'm on a mission to help others build their own businesses with purpose and profit. On Mission Driven Business, you'll hear from diverse entrepreneurs and the people who support them. You'll get practical advice and a little motivation to help you build your own business with impact and profit. Maybe even change the world. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mission Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. And today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience, but very few of us talk openly about. Why so many high achievers struggle to actually feel successful. Why do we hit goals, build businesses, increase revenue, help clients, create impact, but still somehow feel behind? Why does success sometimes feel temporary, or even worse, invisible? I've been thinking a lot about this topic lately, since I've noticed this pattern not just in my clients, but in myself too. I'll have a really productive month, a meaningful client interaction, or a podcast episode will perform well, and for about 5 minutes, I feel pretty proud. And then my brain immediately shifts into what's next? What's still missing? What should I be doing better? I know I'm not alone in this behavior. I've seen client after client achieve their revenue goals, hit their impact targets, achieve notoriety, and set a new goal without pausing to celebrate their wins. My business coach has said a phrase that has really resonated with me. There is no there. She had to tell me this because of my constant urge to get to the next goal. By focusing on the next thing, I'm missing the life that I'm building. So in today's episode, I want to unpack why high achievers struggle to feel successful, how comparison and constant striving distort our perspective, and why mission-driven entrepreneurs are especially vulnerable to this. We'll end with a few practical ways that we can become healthier and sustainable. If we never learn to acknowledge progress, entrepreneurship can become an emotionally exhausting cycle. So let's dive in. One of the biggest reasons high achievers struggle to feel successful is that we've been conditioned to always keep moving. Many of us learned very early in life that achievement equals safety. Achievement equals approval, or achievement equals worth and stability. This strategy is especially true for LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs who had to get their validation in other ways because of the shame we had around our sexuality. So we became really good at performing, producing, solving problems, checking boxes, setting goals, and staying busy. And to be clear, those skills are incredibly useful for entrepreneurs. The problem is that eventually, that achievement stops feeling satisfying. The goalpost keeps moving. You hit one goal and immediately create another. That could be hitting 6 figures and then wanting multiple 6 figures. Hire your first team member and then feeling behind because you don't have a larger team. Or launching a podcast and then wondering why it's not growing fast enough. There's always another benchmark. And entrepreneurship, especially, rewards this mindset. The business world is telling us to scale, optimize, grow faster, make more money. So we end up in a perpetual pursuit. And what's dangerous about this pursuit is that eventually stop experiencing the life while you're living it. When I first launched BTF, I remember how exciting it felt to get a new single client. I remember the gratitude I felt when someone trusted me enough to work with me. And over time, as the business grew, I noticed how easy it became to normalize accomplishments that once felt huge. Doesn't mean I'm ungrateful. I'm incredibly appreciative of every client relationship and the business that I've built. It just means I'm human, like everyone else, and I adapt very quickly. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. We adapt to our current circumstances so quickly that what once felt exciting becomes our new normal. Then we start chasing the next new thing, which means success becomes incredibly difficult to feel. Another thing that makes this harder is the way social media has fundamentally distorted our understanding of success. As entrepreneurs, we are constantly exposed to the curated versions of other people's lives and businesses. We know this intellectually. We know people are sharing their highlight reels. We know people aren't posting the full story, but emotionally, it still affects us. You can have a perfectly good day in your business and then open Instagram or LinkedIn and suddenly feel behind. Someone else has launched something bigger, something new, hit a revenue milestone, or gone viral. And without even realizing it, we begin using someone else's timeline to evaluate our own. I think this is especially difficult for mission-driven entrepreneurs because many of us are deeply reflective people. We care. We want to do meaningful work, and we want to create impact. But that same thoughtfulness can sometimes turn inward in unhealthy ways. Instead of appreciating our progress, we overanalyze ourselves. We question whether we're doing enough, whether we're growing fast enough, whether we're successful enough, and comparison becomes the moving target that no one can ever fully hit. There will always be someone ahead of you in one area or another, more visible, wealthier, or more efficient. But what we rarely see is their anxiety and stress, their trade-offs, their financial reality, their relationship struggles, their exhaustion. We compare our insides to someone else's outsides, and that's never a fair comparison. I also think mission-driven entrepreneurs struggle with this in a unique way because many of us tie our self-worth to our impact. We genuinely care about helping people, but it also creates a pressure because when our business feels deeply connected to our identity and values, it becomes harder to separate business performance from personal worth. If the business struggles, it can feel personal. If growth slows, it can feel like a failure. And if you're tired or burned out, you may feel guilty about not doing more. And because many mission-driven entrepreneurs are naturally empathetic, we often overextend ourselves. But you can't build a meaningful business if you are perpetually depleted. Some of the most successful people I know still struggle to feel successful. Not because they aren't accomplished, but because they've trained themselves to focus almost exclusively on gaps, problems, and future goals, which again is useful for business growth, but dangerous for our emotional well-being. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in entrepreneurship is that success without reflection rarely feels like success at all. If we never pause long enough to acknowledge our growth, our resilience, the lessons and impact that we've had, or progress that we've made, our brains simply move on to the next problem. And entrepreneurship guarantees that there will always be a next problem. This is why at the start of every meeting, I ask clients about successes and challenges. We take just a few minutes to reflect on what's going well, what they've accomplished, and what still feels like a challenge to overcome. These moments force us to stop moving long enough to actually look at what has happened. Otherwise, entire years can blur together. This practice also then gives a reference point of client wins, personal growth moments, and moments they handled better now than they would have a few years ago. As I mentioned, high achievers are often excellent at documenting failures and terrible at documenting progress. So we counter this impulse in our one-on-ones and make success emotionally visible. I also make sure clients take some of their profit at the end of the quarter and celebrate themselves. Go out to dinner, get a massage, whatever feels good to you, rather than throwing that money back into the business. It's another way of pausing and celebrating an achievement now rather than waiting. So what do we do? The answer definitely isn't stop being ambitious. Ambition itself isn't the problem. The problem is when achievement becomes the only way we know how to measure our worth. I think sustainable, successful growth requires expanding our definition of success beyond output alone, especially when it comes to revenue. Success might be building a business that supports your mental health, creating flexibility and freedom in your life, having stronger boundaries, working with clients you genuinely enjoy, making decisions aligned with your values, or resting without guilt and becoming a calmer leader. These things matter. Yet many of them don't show up publicly. No one sees the healthier you, your better relationship, or the emotional growth that you've had. No one can see your confidence and resilience that you've earned by going through this business model. But those things are often the things that actually create a meaningful life. I also think it's important to remember that entrepreneurship is not a linear experience. As I discussed in episode 118, there will be seasons where your growth is slower, your energy is lower, your priority shifts, and life happens. Doesn't mean you're failing. Sometimes success is simply continuing. Sometimes success is choosing sustainability instead of self-destruction. Sometimes success is deciding that you no longer want to build your business according to someone else's definition. I think more entrepreneurs need permission to define success for themselves, not based on hustle culture, comparison, visibility, or arbitrary timelines, but based on your values, alignment, your well being, the impact you're having, and the sustainability of your business. So, if you've been struggling to feel successful lately, I just want to remind you your brain may be measuring progress through what's still unfinished, but that doesn't mean your progress isn't real. Another metaphor I've come to appreciate is that success is like walking up a winding staircase. Your surroundings look the same until you look down. So take a moment to think about who you were a few years ago, what you survived, what you've learned, what you've built, and the courage it took to keep going. Because I suspect that many of us are doing way better than we allow ourselves to believe. And I think entrepreneurship becomes more sustainable when we learn how to hold both ambition and appreciation. You can have both things. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a reflection question. What's one win you haven't fully celebrated this year? And I mean really celebrated, not immediately minimized, not brushed past, not followed up with, but I should have done better. What's one thing you've done this year that deserves acknowledgement? I genuinely love to hear your answers. Send me a DM on Instagram or reply to my newsletter and let me know. If this episode resonated with you, share it with another entrepreneur who might need to hear it. I think a lot more people are carrying this feeling than we realize. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Mission Driven Business Podcast. Until next time, keep building your business that supports both your mission and your humanity. Don't miss an episode by subscribing to Mission Driven Business on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other listening platform. Thanks for listening. Until next time.